Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are back now. As you know, we are starting to go from the pandemic to the endemic. We are, of course, starting to go back to the offices again. Even our fellow colleagues here in RTM, slowly starting to get back to their normal working routine. So with that, we have developed some habits, I think, throughout the pandemic that we didn't realize we actually can be quite toxic, because we were, I would say, enclosed in our home for so long. We're used to doing certain habits at home that you might bring to the office, and you might not realize it's actually very, very dismissive. It's not great. It creates an uncomfortable environment towards your colleagues. And I actually want to know as well, Nabil, have you ever been in a situation where you felt somebody else was very, very toxic in behavior?
I gotta say, Zoe, my office life was very, very short. So the colleagues that I had, they were pretty nice and decent. So I wouldn't say I had any problem, except for this one guy.
Oh.
Yes, this one guy, he doesn't use the toilet well. Let's just put it at that. And
Wow.
that is very irksome. It makes the experience of going to the office quite cumbersome, You don't really want to use the toilet. Sometimes I had to use the toilet outside of the office. And that wasn't comforting, that wasn't comfortable. But I didn't do anything about it, though.
Right. So that is you feeling uncomfortable towards somebody else's action, right? But what happens if you don't realize that you are the toxic coworker? So we have on the show Dr. Gan Hwa San, who's also a consulting psychologist and a trainer, to help us identify whether or not we are a toxic coworker. Because again, we often reflect or we often point out people's flaws, but as they say, one finger pointing at someone else, but four fingers pointing back at us. So, Dr. Gan, what are some of can you just define what is a toxic coworker?
Okay. Normally, the word toxic itself is too poisonous for us to swallow. Meaning that, it's creating unharmonious, situations in the office, wherever, So, toxicity, I give you an analogy, You see, whatever we take, then if we take a toxic food, it might go inside us, and of course, it will create, havoc in the body systems, right? The same things in the office, right? One person, who is so negative, might wreak havoc in the whole departments or whole company.
Right.
So the toxicity here is, how the workers do not perform up to the expectations of the company, as well as never work in accordance to the organizational cultures. I suppose, that basically is, people will feel uneasy, with this type of co-workers, right? So basically, when talk about toxicity, it is about attitudinal problems. That is issues.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so when we're talking about a toxic environment, usually we refer to other people. But of course, our focus today, we want to awake that self-realization that we also could be toxic. And sometimes we just don't see it. So maybe you could illuminate us on the signs on when you are being toxic to your co-workers.
Yeah, you are right. Most of the times, we, just like Joey, mentioned just now, when we point one finger out, at least four fingers pointing us back, right? So most of the time, without so-called self-realizations of self-awareness, normally we will label others as the toxic co-workers. And it's much, difficult to look into ourselves and find out, whether we do have that. The issue is, if we do not have so-called awareness, right? You wouldn't know that, you carry that kind of so-called negativity inside you.
Right.
So how do we find out? Normally, if we do not attempt to really look into us and do some self-inquiry, right? I don't think so that, okay, we will identify it easily unless and until, okay, certain bad incident happens. Say, for example, okay, people criticize you openly, and after working for some times, okay, you never been promoted, okay, and then you question yourself why, and then you start to asking around what's going on, why I has been here for many years, but I never been promoted. Then later on, people list it down for you, and yes, only then you know about it. As well as, okay, say for example, human beings is a human natures. If we do not face any accidents, okay, health problems, we would not some sort like, okay, go and take care about that portion, sections of life, right? The same thing, yeah. When come to this type of things, if we never meet any criticisms or some sort of negativities, okay, people some sort of blaming us, okay, and we do not know about it, right? So it is not just like the mirror, okay? When I communicate with somebody, all right, if I feel sort of, okay, agitated, irritated, okay, when talking to certain person, right? Right. If we have high so-called awareness level, we might reflect it, okay, whatever feelings that we have inside, then we start to query and ask ourselves, why I have such and such emotions and feelings. Only then we will go deeper and deeper and find out, oh, my goodness, all this while, without realizing, I am the one who creating this certain so-called uneasiness, okay, during the conversation of some sort, okay, right? I suppose, okay, that's normally is quite tough, okay, to handle because we ignorance about it most of the time.
Yeah. And I could totally relate with that in terms of being ignorant of your self-behavior, right? Because we grew up with certain habits. We are who we are, as they said.
Right.
And I've had an experience where I was interning, and my manager at the time, she would often complain, and she would never understood why people never gave her jobs, or she did not perform in certain departments. So as an intern, how are we supposed to, you know, kind of like nudge them and say, hey, maybe it's your behavior, or maybe it's our own personal behavior? How do we reach that point of realization that what I'm doing right now is creating a negative environment around me, and it's not promoting a healthy, you know, working environment? How do I come to that realization?
Yeah, a good question, and it's quite tough, okay, as an intern, I would say, okay. You know why? As an intern, normally, you don't have that issues, I would say, because when we as an intern, we are fresh. It's much easier, okay, to pick up a good so-called work cultures when you are fresh. But once a person has been there for long, okay, normally, okay, they don't realize it because of their experience, their ego. So that's why the seniority actually make a person so toxic in the sense of, okay, sometimes they so-called some sort like they undermining others, okay, and such things will create discriminations, right? And this type of discriminations, okay, of course, all right, will bring others, okay, so-called consequences, okay. It makes, okay, the teamworks, okay, can't work in collaborations, okay. So you see, why today we want to touch about this, okay, toxic co-workers, because in the era whereby we are in the networking and sharing environments, okay, we are no more on top-down managements, okay, but we are in the grassroots, okay, innovate, okay, situation, right? So we need that kind of teamwork, right? So this teamwork is so important. If you so-called have I with you all the time, all right, you will always, okay, some sort of like push problem to others, right? And then you say, it wasn't me, right? So you always pointing finger out. And this type of things, okay, of course, okay, will create this harmony, okay, in the office, right? So in the sense of, okay, we need to come to terms with our own self, right? So the self-realization, I still, okay, so-called promote and propagate about self-realization here. So how to realize about it is about the being mindful. We got to be mindful. But the problem is, okay, how to be mindful, right? How to be mindful. So to be mindful, we need to have awareness. Now, the self-awareness itself, okay, must start with our own self. We must ask ourselves, who am I? Who am I? So, when you know who you are, what is your purpose of life, right? So, we will relate it to the meanings of life. So, when you have all of this, right? So, the issue of, okay, gossiping, okay, blaming other people, criticizing, okay, that is so small and tiny, right? Because, okay, when you have a mindfulness, okay, you start to have a so-called self-confidence. The self-confidence become, okay, stronger and stronger. Your self-esteem, okay, become, okay, higher. So once you have that with you, so you don't, okay, some sort of like act like jealous of others, okay, you try to some sort of like, okay, you very quick in so-called taking up credits, okay, and throw others under the bus, right? So you see, so it's still about we ourselves. How much do we know ourselves? Right. If we know what you want, what you can contribute, okay, so I think the rest is so small. Yeah? So talking about sign, the sign of so-called toxic co-workers, we have an exhaustive, okay, list of it, okay? But if you were to some sort like, okay, just, okay, mentions about it and then come with the how to handle this toxicity, how to handle this gossiping, how to handle discrimination, how to handle how, I suppose that, okay, we are some sort of like putting out the fire, all right? And then we never go to the root cause. So we must go back to the root cause. The root is with us. So for example, the organizational cultures. It's very important. Leaderships, right? It's very important. So that's why if we already have that kind of culture whereby mengumpat, so for example, gossiping, then nobody stop it, right? So in other words, we are indirectly encouraging people to talk about it. But of
encouraging bad behavior.
Right. Anyway, gossiping is not wrong. Who doesn't gossip anyway, right? But of course, the question is how to gossip.
It's the content of the so-called gossip, right?
Correct, Zoe. So you see, people say, it is not what you say, it is how you say it, isn't it? So, right. So, of course, to be so-called colorful in our life, okay, we must know, okay, how to differentiate, okay, what to say, when to say. So, time and space, the concept of time and space is very, very important.
It looks like it's very important for you to look within yourself in order to change a toxic environment to a non-toxic environment. I think it needs a lot of sincerity and also openness and honesty.
It's true.
Because I think most of the problem comes from your ego as well.
Right,
that's
exactly.
my theory.
Right. I love the words, okay. Nabil, ego, all right. Actually, we need to transcend this ego. Ego come because, okay, we have some sort of like the bringing up, everybody have different bringing up, okay, different experiences, okay, right? So we must transcend it.
Right.
So how to transcend all of this? Yeah? So we still have to come back to us. So the word spirituality is very important. But of course, don't misunderstood me. When I mention spirituality, okay, I relate it to religions. Now,
No,
it
yeah.
is nothing to do with religions. Spirituality in the workplace, okay,
Yeah.
refer to some sort of the compassions,
Yeah.
okay, and how we value our work,
Yeah.
okay, and of course, okay, we have a big pictures here, right, whereby we can contribute not just, okay, to that organization itself, but to the universe.
Yeah, as an
in the-
ecosystem and
yeah, in
as
the
a whole, right.
ecosystems, right?
Okay.
So you see, how do we, some sort of like, okay, the best way to look into ourselves? I would say that, okay, we need to connect ourselves with the nature.
Yeah.
Say, for example, if we are too proud, if we sort of, okay, you know, having the kinds of so-called negativity whatsoever, right? Or you can go and keep in touch with the nature. The best way is you go to the beach, right? You see, when you're right in front of the sea, right? Far there is a horizon, okay,
peace
with the sky. How big are you?
Yeah, you feel
You
small.
become, you automatically, right, become so tiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you so tiny, okay, what's about your achievement now? Yeah, your little achievement, but you keep on, okay, pressing on that achievement, and then you go back to the office. When people want to suggest something, you say, "Oh no, this is not good. That is not good," and then okay, you're reluctant to listen to people, right? And you see, so when you have that kind of feeling of tiny, right? So you
become more humble, right?
Right, you
Yeah.
become more humble. You wound some sort like close your mind, right? You being opened,
Alright.
yeah, open-minded.
Alright.
The same thing when we go to hiking, when
Yeah.
you see the mountain,
Yeah.
right? When you see, it makes us, okay, come back to the earth,
Right.
right?
Okay. Not to cut you off, Dr. Gan,
Right.
but again, we are talking about the signs of, you know, you realizing that you are a toxic coworker. Can you very quickly, because I think we're running out of time, just short list the 5 signs that our audiences can perhaps, you know, go home and reflect and think about it. The 5 signs of you being a toxic co-worker. So the first one, I think you talked about
Right.
not being openness to ideas. What are some of the other examples?
Okay, like lead a meeting after a meeting.
All right.
Say, for example, when in a meeting, right,
Yeah.
you never voice up certain idea.
Yep.
Then after the meeting, right, you go to your group,
Yep.
and then you form your own meeting,
Yep.
right? Then you disseminate, okay, the negative ideas.
Right.
I think this is also one of the signs, all right? And the other thing is, okay, as I said just now, gossiping.
Yep, gossiping.
Gossiping, normally gossiping here means if you always, okay, having this, okay, so-called question, have you heard about him involving in this and that? Or have you ever, okay, yeah, this and that? So you see, that is another sign of it, all right? So, of course, okay, the other thing is holding informations.
Oh, okay.
You see, you keep the information for your own self, okay? In the worst scenario, you might intentionally, all right, so-called teach people the wrong way. Yeah? Yes, this is another sign. So
Right.
sharing, we must share. Honesty, as what Nabil mentioned just now. Sincerity must be there, right? So how many already we have, right? So of course there's a whole list of it, okay?
Yeah.
Backstepping, right?
Ooh.
This is, okay, if you were to discuss about it, I think, okay, it would take time,
Yeah.
all right?
Perhaps.
Isn't it?
And and unfortunately, we are running out of time. And of course, those of you guys who are watching this right now, and if you're thinking, you're starting to list down the things that Gan mentioned, you guys love to gossip, you tend to be very demeaning. These are the type of things, again, you guys need to, again, reflect on. And I think I love it. I love that when he said, whenever you feel your ego's inflating, you should go ahead and calm yourself down, be humble, go for hikes, go for beach walks, and whatnot. So thank you again, Dr. Gan, for being on the show. I wish we had more time to talk about this because it's such an interesting topic.